YouTube family. Welcome to our channel. It's good to see you guys today. Welcome to Happy Crappy Hour. So, I want to talk to you today about our topic, but before we get into it, the topic is what's the most efficient tool that a narcissist uses? And I think it's really important that we talk about, learn from each other how they use this tool, because we're all going to be affected by it. And so many people don't realize they're being played while the narcissist is using this tool. But before we get to that, I want to talk about our happies and crappies. As you guys are ready, getting ready and starting to come on, I want to tell you guys about happy this week. So my happy this week has been that we had family come into town. So that was nice. That was, we had a very pleasant time. We spent a lot of time together, and we played a lot of games, which was really awesome. I mentioned before that I'm not a very big game person, but I'm coming to realize that playing games really brings people together, gets us talking and laughing, and gives us something to talk about, gives us something to interact over, because, and that and cooking. I really enjoy cooking together, but not everybody necessarily comes into the kitchen to help cook. So playing games is really great, because then you get kids and adults and you get everybody involved. Yeah, so that was my happy this week, learning more and more that I am a game person. I do enjoy that. My crappy this week, though, is, I had even been praying about this, that someone would ask me for my honest opinion, because I tend to not give someone my honest opinion, my opinion. It's not like I lie to them or anything, but I don't interject my opinion when people don't ask for it. Because, it either will do them more harm or they'll get defensive, and they reject it. They're not in a place where they can receive it. So I have been praying that certain people would ask me for my honest opinion, because I want to help them so badly. I see that they are lying to themselves about certain things, or they're just very, very negative, and they can't get themselves out of the hole that they're in. So I just want to say, hey, why don't you try this? But even saying that to certain people will offend them, and not just offend them, they will attack back. So they're not ready to receive that. Even, it seems so innocuous, so benign, right? Like, oh, it's just a suggestion. But some people are so closed off and so wounded that they cannot take a suggestion as something helpful. They take a suggestion as a criticism. So I certainly don't want them to feel like they're being criticized. I want them to be open to the point where they say, you know what, I've hit rock bottom. I can't seem to get myself out of this. What do you think I should do? Or what do you think I can do? And that's when I feel like, yes, they're ready. They're ready to hear. They're ready to receive. So that's when I'm glad to come in and give them just, a little bit at a time, and see how excited they get. If they're excited about the first suggestion, then, we can start working on that. We can even discuss it. Maybe it'll even bring out feelings about it, and open up the door for them to talk about their feelings. That's great. So anyway, I guess it's not really a crappy, but that did happen for me. Somebody kind of invited me in, not necessarily ready to discuss, but this person said something that made me feel like I've got to say something, because they are so deceived. And because they offered their opinion, I was like, well, you know what? This is my opinion. And boy, did we get into it. We got into it for a long time, probably an hour, which I just, I'm not here to combat people. I'm here to help people along who are willing and wanting to find truth And if they're not willing or wanting to find truth, I just feel like, you know what, then you kind of lock yourself in. You do a disservice to yourself when you're not willing to hear the truth. And a lot of times the truth may not agree exactly with what you believe, but that's okay. And here's the deal. And sometimes it may not even look like the truth to you. But are you open enough to listen to something that might not be exactly what you believe? I mean, just investigate it, just entertain it, just think about, like, could that possibly be? Because where you are is so dark and so negative and so destructive, that's not truth. I just want to let you know that. That's not where truth is. Truth does not hide away in the dark, and truth does not destroy. Well, it hurts. I'm telling you that. Yeah, it does destroy bad things. It does bring down negative or bad, or truth brings down lies. It does destroy lies. But truth is not there to destroy people. It's actually to set them free. They may not feel like it's setting them free because it's painful to hear, but in the long run, it actually does set them free. Anyway, so my crappy, in a way, I don't like to get into, and it wasn't I guess it could have been an argument, but not really. It was a lot of disagreements. But I'm hoping that the other person's eyes were opened enough to realize that where they are is just a very dark place and is not worth staying in. And they convince themselves too that this dark place that they're in is healthy. They've convinced themselves that this dark place that they're in is everybody else's fault, And I'm like, no, you still have a choice here and if you want goodness in your life, and this person does, and they said they believe that they're good and they believe that they want goodness for other people, and yet at the same time they're condemning people. And I'm like, well, that's not exactly spreading goodness by wishing death on people you don't even know, or don't know that well. You don't know their story, but you're wishing them death. It's like, that's a dark place. Anyway, you guys, that was crappy. It is. I don't go into the darkness with people with joy. I'm not like, oh, so excited to get in there with them. Mainly, I feel like if I'm like all of you guys. I have my weaknesses. I have my triggers. There are times that I doubt myself, and at that moment I didn't doubt myself, but I'm not like excited. I'm so powerful and strong and so together that I'm excited to go into darkness with people. I'm just not there. So you guys, let's get into our topic today. So what is this tool, this very efficient tool that the narcissist uses? The reason I even started thinking about this is because why is it that there are so many more stories now about narcissists? Why is it that it seems to be an explosion of narcissists out there? And I don't understand that. At first I was like, wow, has our world, our culture changed so much that suddenly narcissism is the in thing? And there's a little bit of that. There is a little bit of sort of a culture that encourages narcissism, unfortunately, where, on the one hand, it's good that we're teaching people that you are important, your opinion matters, there's no one like you, you are unique, and that's great because people, and it's true, it is true, all of that is true. The problem comes when we take away consequences to actions. Like, okay, even though you're unique and you're wonderful and you're special and you have something to offer people, now when you misbehave or when you're displaying antisocial behavior, or when you cheat and steal and rob, or whatever, when you abuse other people, there has to be a consequence. It shouldn't, well, that's okay that you're doing that because you're damaged, so it's okay for you to lash out. No, there has to be consequences, and people are shying away from consequences because they don't want to hurt the other person. Now, I'm not saying that in the adult world. It happens while people are raising their kids and they're laying off, like, well, my kid's just expressing themselves. Yeah, but when that child expresses themselves onto another child, we need to stop it. Like, no, that's not a good expression. And there needs to be a kind of consequence that means something to that child. Anyway, I'm kind of getting off target here. So there is a bit of our culture turning towards more, and abetting narcissism, unfortunately. But there's also something else that's encouraging or making narcissistic behavior easier, and that is the cell phone. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. I have had some experience with narcissists and their cell phone, but then I started thinking about, like, how do they use their cell phone? And then I realized that, you know what? There are tricks of the trade, if you will, for narcissists and their cell phones. They will use their cell phones, because of the advance in technology. 20 years ago, we didn't have cell phones all over the place here in the US. I think in Asia, they were ahead of the times and they had cell phones everywhere. And I remember a friend visiting from Hong Kong, and she said, oh, you just wait, in 10 years, you guys will not be able to live without a cell phone. And at that time, I think I might have had like a flip phone or something like that. I'm not even sure that I had that. I don't think I had a cell phone. I think I had, just a house landline. But she said, I can't live without mine. It's always in my pocket. It's always in my purse. And even then, we didn't have like constant texting. We didn't have, the technology wasn't as much as we have today with cell phones. It wasn't a supercomputer. We couldn't go, on the internet and Google things and take pictures. It was just simply a phone that you can be connected to somebody 24/7, I guess. But she was saying, just wait. In a few years, you guys will not be able to live without it. And it's true. Look around. Everybody has one. Now, a cell phone in itself isn't evil or bad, but narcissists have been able to use this to reach more people. Like before, in order to cheat on their partner, a narcissist would have to pick up a landline and call another landline to another person. And this was just like, 20 years ago. So like one generation ago. They also couldn't really hide who they were calling, because every month you would get a phone bill with all the numbers that you have called, and it would be on the bill. So they may even have to go to a pay phone or call from their office, the person they're cheating with. Now, another thing is they would also have to show up at the other person's house to spend time with them. Like the love bombing could not be done as easily as it is now with the phone. They would actually have to show up at the other person's house to spend time with them. But with the cell phone, they can take 3 seconds to send a text that says, I'm missing you, thinking about you, baby, or you're always, in my heart, or you're on my mind all the time, or I'm, thinking of, anyway, I'm not going to go into the kinds of texts they send, but they can send these really quick 3-second texts that gets them into their news supplies life much easier. And set up tons of news supply now using their cell phone. What they do is they set up all this news supply to woo them, to love bomb them, even to hoover them, right? Like supply that has left, and they can still like send a little feeler text out there. Hey, thinking about you, or what are you up to? And that's all they have to do. Like before, they would actually have to think about, well, okay, I have to either show up at that person's house. 2, I have to actually send flowers or, use some of my resources, my money, in order to hoover this person. 3, they would actually, even if they call the person, like on a landline, they have to actually think about what they're going to say because they're on the spot. You can't like take a few minutes to think about what your next response will be. They actually have to be on it. Like they have to be able to lie on a dime, and they have to be able to convince the other person with their tone that they're thinking about them, they're loving them, they're what they have to put all this effort and energy into the new supply that they're setting up before they jump ship from their current partner. So cheating was a lot harder back then, I think, than it is now. They can set up all kinds of possible uh, tests out there to see who they can possibly start cheating with, who's willing, and it's sort of like fishing, you know. So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I do want to hear what your thoughts were and what your experiences are, because I think it's really important that we share what our experiences have been with the narcissist using their cell phones. So I want to tell you guys about the experience that I had. And that was the narcissist was not comfortable. Well, in a way, it was kind of weird. The narcissist kind of left their cell phone out and about. But if it was near new supply that they were working, they did not want that new supply to pick up their phone. So, of course, they have a code, and they don't want the new supply to be able to get on and look at their text messages with other people. So what they would do a lot of times is they would use codes. They would use code names for other supply that they're pursuing. And those code names could be business names, like businesses where they met that person. So they remember who that person is. If it's a certain bar, they might use an acronym to describe that bar, and possibly a couple of initials to describe the person that they the supply that they're pursuing, the new supplies. So that's one of the things that they would do. And I saw this and I was like, whoa, why would you need to use all these acronyms? And it occurred to me like, oh, that's why. Because in case any of their old supply comes on, they might actually see a woman's name. They might actually see a guy's name. But the narcissists are getting so crafty at this that they know when I meet someone I'm interested in, I'm going to put something like TB for tall blonde, or they may start with a first name that sounds, like you can't tell if it's a man or a woman. So it might be Chris TB. So you're like, oh, who's Chris TB? And they can make up anything. If it's a guy who's cheating on his woman, he'd be like, yeah, that's my friend Christopher, And anyway, that's one of the things that they do is they use acronyms, and they use business names, or they use initials that describes the place where they met the person they're pursuing, they're cheating with or wanting to cheat with. Now, another thing that people, narcissists will do, and why the cell phone is such an efficient tool for them, they can use the cell phone to cheat on you and not be reachable. Like what they would do. I mean, I guess this is kind of back to the day without cell phones too, where you couldn't find out where the person was. But now they have a better excuse than, yeah, I wasn't at my desk at the office, that's why you couldn't reach me, or I wasn't home and that's why you couldn't reach me. Like if you're on a business trip and you're calling your husband or wife, and they're not answering the phone at 11 o'clock at night at home, you're like, well, where the heck are you? It's very hard for them to say, yeah, I was sleeping. Yeah, through that loud ringing and the 5 phones that you have in the house, there's no way, right? But with a cell phone, if you're trying to reach your wife or your husband and they're not answering, you're on a business trip and it's 11 o'clock at night, they might say things like, oh, the battery ran out and I couldn't find my charger, or I left my phone at my buddy's house, or I didn't realize that my phone I accidentally turned it off. So they have all these excuses now that a cell phone makes so much easier for why you couldn't reach them while they were cheating on you. It's terrible, right? Another thing that they do too, cell phone makes it so much easier for narcissists. This is why I want to talk about it. Another thing that they do is they can easily go and give you the silent treatment or ghost you with a cell phone, because it's harder to, let me see, it's harder to ghost somebody when the interaction has to be one-on-one, and all is one-on-one interaction. You can tell, like, this person is avoiding me on purpose, because when I come knock on the door, I see their car in the driveway, they won't answer the door. But when you're calling somebody and they don't answer, you don't know. You don't know what they're doing. So you tend to give them the benefit of the doubt. And they end up being able to draw you along or keep you on this line, even though they're actually ghosting you. They're actually giving you the silent treatment. They're trying to avoid you. And you don't know that until way deep into it. And then you realize, oh my gosh, they've been treating me like this for a long time. But that's one of the things they also can do so much easier with a cell phone, is they just give you the silent treatment. But they'll make up excuses for why. Like, oh, well, my battery ran out, or I left my phone in the car, and, I didn't think I was going to be in the store that long, so I left my phone in the car. And you have no idea. You just think like, oh, okay, I guess that's the answer. That's the truth. Another thing that they do with that, and I mentioned this a little earlier, that's so much easier with cell phones than it was before cell phones, is the love bombing, the idolizing stage, right? So much easier, because they can give you text all day long, every hour, send you a quick little text to let you know, I'm thinking about you. And you're thinking, wow, every hour he's sending me a little love note or a little reminder of how much he's thinking about me. And we buy that. We buy that as if it's such a huge thing they're doing. And we give it so much weight. We give it so much value that we shouldn't. Just because they send a quick little text, 15 times a day at the beginning, right? To tell you that they're thinking about you. Hey, beautiful. Hey, handsome. That type of thing. There's a little bit of that in a healthy relationship. That's great. But for a narcissist, it means nothing to them. You should not give it very much weight. You should not give it any value. And yet we do. We give it lots of value. And the pitfall that I want to encourage you guys to pay attention to is that when the narcissist, when their relationship with you is mostly through their cell phone with the occasional booty call, this is not a relationship. This is you being victimized. This is you being used. So don't fall for a relationship where the person, most of their interaction with you is through the cell phone, through texts that mean almost nothing, but they don't spend time with you. And the time they spend with you is kind of just for the sex. They might take you out to dinner. They might take you out quick, for a quick little date, but with the intention that, hey, after this, we're having sex. And that's it. They're not interested in hearing your problems of the day. They're not interested in hanging out with you and your friends. They're not interested in taking you out on adventures and going, doing things that you love to do. They're not interested in learning about the things that inspire you or you want to do. They just want to make sure that at the end of this date, they're going to get a little bit of sex or a lot of sex or whatever, It's, if most of your relationship is based on a cell phone, it's not a relationship. They probably keep you hidden. They keep you hidden where you're not meeting their friends. You're not meeting their family. You're not meeting, anybody that's important to them, because they can keep you and 4 or 5 other people using their cell phone to manipulate and organize and structure, unfortunately, how they're going to interact with you and 4 or 5 other people at the same time. They schedule you in. This is like it's such an efficient way for them to schedule sex throughout the week. So you guys, that's what I have for you today. It looks like people are not coming on today for Happy Crappy Hour, and I get it. There are times where we're busy, and I know the time I've chosen is not the best time. I may reevaluate when is the best time to do a Happy Crappy Hour, but I wish you all lots of love and joy and health. I hope that you are getting the healing that you need, and I hope you're getting the encouragement you need. I want you to know that even though narcissists are using these tools, we can educate ourselves, and we can share our stories. And that's how we educate ourselves, by the way. We share our stories and we share our experiences to expose the tactics and the manipulations that narcissists use. And as they advance, we can share those, and that will help protect us. It'll also bring us back to reality. We don't want to give too much weight to what someone says. We want to give weight to what they do. And cell phones give way too much weight to what people say and not enough to what they do. So you guys, have a great day, have a great week, and I hope to see you soon. Oops.